Okay, today I'm going to be doing the follow-up for the Civivi Lazar liner. I've been using it for about 2.5, 3 weeks now. I mean, for what it's worth, this is a decent little knife, emphasis on the little. And again, that was my fault when I bought it. I didn't check the specs on it. I thought I was buying a bigger knife, but this would essentially, if I were to keep it and use it regularly, it would probably end up being like a small pocket fruit cutter knife, vegetable cutter knife for me, or like camping or something like that, or just to have some little backup on the side if my regular knife were to fail for any reason. So that being said, this still is a very good knife. It's still very sharp for what it is. When I did my initial reaction to this, I did have a couple concerns that I guess proved to be a little bit justified for me at least. This still may end up being a fantastic knife for somebody else, but one of my concerns was the opening and closing aspects. I don't like knives where I have to close them and my blade or my thumb is going to be in the way of the blade. Now I know that that can be easily remedied for most people, but a lot of times when I'm working and I'm doing stuff in the field, under a house, anything, I'm using one hand to open and close these things, frankly, just because I can't get to the other one. The other one's holding something. And so I tend to prefer knives that have a release on the back, or like the Benchmades with the little lock release that's on here. So one of my concerns was closing it. Thankfully, I didn't have any instances where I nicked myself on the blade or anything trying to close it one-handed. But however, one of the other problems that I had was opening it, and I did have a couple instances where that tip of that knife got me right there in the palm of my hand trying to open this one-handed in the middle of doing stuff. So that was one of the concerns I had with a smaller blade and a smaller handled knife, is that usually when the functions happen, they're happening inside my range of grip. Wasn't bad, just a couple jabs there. That is a very sharp tip, and it definitely holds up to the point. And then again, obviously the size was the other concern I had. Again, my fault, nobody else's. I didn't read the specs when I bought it. But for somebody with smaller hands, or somebody who's looking for a backup pocket knife, something to have just in case, this would be a good little addition to have. I mean, it's still sharp as the day I bought it. I've cut cardboard with it, cut plastic, cut zip ties, duct tape, Gorilla Tape, chip some wood away with it just for the heck of it, just to see how it'll hold up. The only thing that I had found, I don't know if you can see it here, there is the smallest rolling of the blade there, and that was actually my fault yesterday, cutting a zip tie off of a hog wire fence to get access to the area behind it. As I was cutting, it slipped and hit the metal instead of the zip tie. But that does bring me to another point. So all in all, I'm going to give this knife a 7 out of 10. And I'll get into the reasons why I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 here in a second. But the biggest reason that I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 is the bevel cut on that is very small. And one of the things I found out is when I was removing, like plastic wrappings, or when I was removing cardboard bracings, anything like that, that bevel was so small it would initially cut, but then everything seemed to drag on the blade whenever I was making any pass through something. So I'd get a really good, nice cut going, and then I'd have to give it some more force on the way through. While that isn't really I don't know if you guys can see the mark lines on the blade, but up and down, up and down, up and down. While that isn't the biggest issue with the knife still functioned very well. I probably wouldn't buy something like this again to use on the regular. For many reasons, I guess. Some of them would essentially be, I guess I'm spoiled with knives. I've had a lot of really sharp knives that function really well. While this is a sharp knife that functions really well, the parameters in which it functions is probably not designed for the extensive work that I do with cutting. This is more of like a occasional pop out and slice something real quick, which is not a problem, which is fine. Again, I bought this knife thinking I was getting something bigger. This probably isn't a knife designed for the work that I would normally do on the regular. So all in all, I'm going to give this knife a 7 out of 10. Mostly the size, the functions, way it opened, the couple times that I was able to stick myself in the hand with it, and the cutting prowess of that bevel there. But everything else, it's fine. It's still, I mean, it's an aesthetically pleasing knife. I like the contour of the body. I still like the contour of the blade. That tip is a stabbing tip if I've ever seen one in my life. It's still incredibly sharp. It still makes quick work of small cutting projects. Weight, if you're going to look for something that's a little bit lighter, still got a good weight for its size. So if you're looking for something that's not overweighted, I feel like it's a good balance. This would be a good little knife if you got smaller hands, if you're into smaller blades, or just want a backup tool knife. Functionality, it did everything it was supposed to, worked just like it was supposed to. You can't really say much more than that. But the problems I did have with it, again, were you could all chalk up to user expectations or user prerogative, I guess. It's not exactly my cup of tea. It's a nice little buy. I think I paid like $55 for this, shipping and everything included. So if I were to need to use this thing in a pinch, I would definitely suggest using it in a pinch. But as an everyday carry, I think I would prefer something a little different. So that being said, the Civivi lazar liner, I'm going to give a 7 out of 10 for the reasons I previously specified. But I still think it's a good little knife if you want to have it in your repertoire. So the next one we're going to take a look at is actually going to be a Tool Company brand knife. I'm going to mix it up a little bit. I still have many other knives sitting in my little bank here waiting to get checked on. I'm trying to get to them as fast as I can, but life in general is very busy, as well as all the other projects I'm working on trying to get accomplished amidst full days worth of work, 6-7 days a week, that sort of thing. So Civivi lazar liner, $550 or so, shipping included, 3 weeks worth of use, 7 out of 10. All right, thank you guys for watching.